he has sworn, you will be a priest after the order of Melchisedec. Okay, a priest. When Abram was called, there was no priests. What is a priest? There's an order. In other words, you can't just be any priest. There's a specific order that has to be followed. And Melchisedec, what is Melchisedec? We need to find out all these things. If we want to understand Melchisedec, we have to go to the place of first mentioning. And we find that in Genesis 14, of course, where Melchisedec appeared unto Abraham. Now, this is very interesting. If you go to Hebrews 7, because you got to read Genesis 14 and Hebrews 7 is like, you can't separate them. Because the whole book of Hebrews, we have to go through the book of Hebrews. It talks about this priestly order and high priest and everything. And verse 8 comes and he says, now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such a high priest who is set at the right hand of the throne on the majesty in the heavens. Okay, of everything we're speaking, it's like, guys, we've got a high priest. So we need to understand what this high priest thing is. So chapter 7 says, for this Melchisedec, king of Salem, which means king of peace. Now, the kingdom is righteousness, peace, and joy. And he says in Hebrews 1 that the scepter of this kingdom is righteousness. Oh, Hebrews 6, he says that if you do not understand righteousness, you're like a child that is busy with milk and you've never eaten meat. And people that have righteousness is people that have their senses exercised, knowing between good and evil. Whoa, where was this? The garden. That's what plunged us into this miserable situation we find ourselves, because they ate of the tree of good and evil and they plunged themselves into death. Now, here is someone that came in this form and then he became obedient unto death. He's raised up and he's sitting at the right hand as a priest forever, interceding for us. He did not just do that. He poured his spirit right inside of us, sealed, and this deep crieth now unto deep. We do not know what we shall pray. We do not know what we must do. But the spirit that knows the mind, our spirit that knows our minds, and his spirit that knows his mind is bringing us together. If only we will make that connection in the spirit and not let the world tell us how to live. Oh, these things are beautiful. For Melchizedek, king of peace, king of peace. God calls a nation in a situation where the whole world was kings. You've got to understand this. There's kings everywhere. So the minute God stopped Babel, these people went and they split it up. And what they did is everyone made their own little kingdom and everyone had a city with a wall surrounded it. So this is why God called Abraham out of that and said, come out of that system. And we know that he called a nation up to a point they were so disobedient. They came to a point where they rejected God and said, we want a king. So a king is a ruler. God wants us to be rulers. This is what Adam was in the garden. He said, you must keep the garden, rule and have dominion. What is that but rulership? Adam was a king. But now the earth has now succumbed to people wanting to be kings. And the whole place is full of kings. So now here he comes, king of peace. What is king of peace? This is a king of a higher order. He says he is the priest of the most high God. Now, Adam was supposed to be king, but now God has a priest interceding for those that he already made kings and priests on the earth. Now, this is just like crazy. Remember, before Abraham, there was no priests. There was kings. For this Melchisedec, it's like when I see that word Melchisedec, I want to go, oh God. King of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham. Guys, please. We read in Psalms 110. The Lord said to my Lord, they were in unity. There was a separation between God and man. But something happened here. It's like Melchisedec, the king of peace, came right to Abraham and he met man. God met man. How did he meet him? Listen. The gospel have been preached to Abraham. You know that. He said he longed to see my day, and he did it. The gospel was preached to Abraham. He believed it. That is why this man went on and he said, God will provide. And he called that place Jehovah Jireh, my provider. But now God came and he met Abraham and he presented him with bread and wine. What is that? We don't read it here. But he just said God met him. God met him. And we know what Melchizedek did. He came and brought bread and wine. This is how God is going to meet you. He died for you. He gave himself. How are you going to meet God? Eat it. John 6 says, if you do not eat of me, you have no part in me.